All right. Hello. Boy, bienvenue. Bonjour. Welcome to everyone to our monthly entrepreneur coffee break. I'm Carol Spicer with Spicer Facilitation, and I'm very pleased to welcome you as we kick off our seventh year. So we've got some folks that are new to us and those that have been around for quite some time. So I thank you for those that are returning. And for the folks that are new, the Entrepreneur Coffee Break started as a pilot in January 2020. And we said, let's run it for 3 months and let's see how we do. And we all know what happened in March 2020. And so we kept on going. And originally it started because I'm comfortable in this space. I'm a certified virtual trainer. And I was going down to coffee breaks in coffee shops in Corner Brook and thought, not everyone can make that trek down to a coffee shop sometimes when they're running a business. And there's other folks across the province that would like to connect, such as Scott, who supports entrepreneurs but is in St. John's, so is not here on the west coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. And then we've expanded. We have some folks with us today from Nova Scotia. We have someone who is joining us from internationally this morning, so it's a great opportunity to bring people together. So I do want to welcome you all. I am going to start with a land acknowledgement, and I'm going to share a short video that's been produced by First Light out of St. John's that I was exposed to in a recent training that I attended, and I think it's quite well done. But as we go through it, I want you to really think about the lands that you're joining us from, because I know we have Indigenous folks all across our country and around the world. So depending on where you're joining us from. So let's give this a whirl. Oh, shoot. I need to include the sound. Just one moment.
Jansi sumustaman todos que manchita match y no emo bunji de otsiwas.
Erek dan menach igen y mwyd esanwg, mew I mit gewo, bidw gewagis na biathig, macha migal ach samwan nadel ach gypdohok chigang, gi sach wasikuchit idli melk diskaltu te jig migamach.
Sutayan ningit, Newfoundland mi, Labrador milu, suli anghagi yaw yut, adjinging tunut, nunak khasima yunut, allight inuit, amma alanga yuit.
Sa kuin nen match no stagatat kanagatweni has asino magno sogejina sa kuin nagatweni hayasin.
Get mi deremek ach gesideremek gohoe, gi suli achsebenek nige, delasik, ach dan el mige negawach, delian kota, umitual.
Nitua wut, anna na wilu, seau, ulumi, siunit semilu, paiti nitsait.
All my relations as we gather here today. All right, so let's do a little bit of an introduction. So I do want to say welcome to Amanda Rogers, who is our guest today, and to give her a bit of context of who we have in the room. I'm going to ask you to do a quick intro, kind of let her know who you are, what role you're playing, and this is because of the geeky thing that I like to know. Where are you located? Because I always like to know how far we reach. So I'm going to randomly pick folks as we go through. So I'm going to start with Jamie and then go to Kelly and then Kathy. So Jamie, you're up first.
Hi, my name is Jamie Warren. I'm currently the Executive Director of the Newfoundland Trailway Council, which manages the former railway corridor across the province. But I'm also a part-time business consultant, and I write primarily for agricultural clients. And I did run the Egg Expo for many, many years with the Federation of Agriculture as well. So I'm trying to build back up my business consulting work since COVID kind of flipped it upside down and rang it out a bit. So I'm trying to get back into that space, and I'm in paradise.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome. Kelly, then Kathy, then Sonia.
I'm Kelly Lannon with Bees Knees Event Planning and Marketing, and also with Equiforce, formerly WRDC. So I'm here in Pasadena.
Excellent. Thank you. Kathy, Sonia, and then Kevin.
Here you go. My name is Catherine DeLuca. I live in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm an organizational change manager. I work with an organization here in Halifax, and we do a lot of work with government. But at this point in my career, I'm really wanting to start working more with private industry, small business, doing either organization side consulting, but also individual consulting with people who are struggling to manage change and be resilient. So yeah, the organizational big stuff I do is mostly government, and I'm at the point in my career I don't want to do the great big organizational transformation anymore. It's great, it's fun. I've done everything from BA to PM, but I really want to focus on more small businesses and helping them figure out what they need, when they need to change, why it's not working, and figure out a strategy to go and do that and be really creative about it.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. And certainly the world is changing constantly. So we're all dealing with that. So
yeah,
very needed. Excellent. Well, welcome.
And you may see the black head who's decided he needs to play. So that's me.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Welcome. Sonia, Kevin, and then Arlene.
Hello, everyone. It's my first time here. And usually I'm located in Kitty Bitty. My partner is in Mexico, so I'm in Guadalajara at this moment, just outside there in the mountains. So don't get too jealous. There's no beach or anything like that. It's about 10 degrees. We had a windstorm last night, so I'm getting prepared to travel back to Newfoundland in a couple of days, and I think the weather is trying to prepare me for that, from what I'm hearing. I have a business for the past 17 years independently and with a small team in a couple places around the world. And I work internationally, although the past year, most of my work is in North America. It's keeping me busy over on this side of the world. I do leadership consulting. I have something called Mindful Leadership for Success programs. And so that puts me in front of leadership teams and nonprofit boards quite often, mostly because they have a problem. Actually, I get those phone calls. We have a problem. I rarely get a phone call that says, we got lots of budget and we'd like to do something nice for people. Like every once in a while, something like that happens, but mostly they give me a call and the wheels have already fallen off. Because I've done this for quite some time and corporately before I opened my business 17 years ago, I'm called on sometimes to teach or speak about topics like that as well. I tend to like to do it from a bit of a side door, obtuse way, and that's a bit disarming for people, but it works really well. It's good to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. Welcome. Kevin, Arlene, and then Karen.
Hi, Kevin Brake. People might know me from the e-learning show. Let me see, currently working with Clever Assist, cleverassist.ai, brand new, just opened. The big project that's currently on the go is a really nice app that translates and records meetings, then uses AI to convert that information into anything you need. And it's pretty cool. Very easy to use. The biggest thing is trying to do a non-subscription fee. So I'm trying not to be rich. And it will all run locally on your phone. Tested it, looks good. Still undergoing tests because I don't like letting stuff out before it's ready to go. And since it's just me doing all the work, I can hold on and not be pushed by somebody trying to whip it out really quick. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I will send it off back to you, Carol.
Excellent. Where are you joining us from today, Kevin?
Kippens, Western Newfoundland.
Excellent. All right, just down the road from Arlene. Arlene's up next, then Karen, then Scott.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Arlene Blanchard White, and I am the relationship manager with Ulnweg Development Group. So we do lending, non-repayable contributions, and some business services, Indigenous women entrepreneurship with Ulnweg Development Group. I cover the Indigenous women entrepreneurship file and the business service file. Yeah, so happy to be here again. It's been a while, Carol, and I
It
can't believe it's
has.
been 7 years already.
I know. I know. It's been
Congratulations
a
on
long
that.
time.
And I'm just across the bay from Kevin. I'm in St. George's.
There you go. This is what I love, the
Can you
fact that
see
we
me? I'll go to the window.
There you go. Excellent. Um, Karen, you're up next, and then Scott.
Good morning, I'm Karen Green. I'm with the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador. I'm a business navigator. We launched the service in January of last year. We're actually just over our 1 year mark. It was a pilot project to help small businesses navigating through any of the red tape of government. Or lots of times we get small businesses that are looking to start up. They don't know where to start, so they call us and say, "Where do we start?" We connect them with any kind of permits and licensing, government regulatory information they need, but we also will refer them out to the local CBDCs, NLO, any of the Indigenous supports that they might qualify for, or for entrepreneur. We guide them those ways to those community organizations that can help them get their business off the ground.
Excellent. The service I think is greatly needed. I used to work for the provincial government, and people would call me and I couldn't navigate it, and I was inside. So, as somebody outside trying to look in and navigate government sometimes is tricky. So excellent. I'm glad that you guys are extending past your pilot, Karen. That's great.
So far, so good. Fingers crossed.
There you go. Scott. So I could call Scott my groupie because Scott, I think you've been on almost every one since in the 7 years.
Yep. I definitely was at the first one. I know that. And I don't
Yep.
think I've missed that many. And so, yeah. Thanks, Carol. Yep. So Scott Andrews, I'm with a national nonprofit called Futurepreneur Canada. What we do is we focus on young business owners. Our definition of young is 18 to 39. So those entrepreneurs under the age of 40. And we've been around for a while. This is a big year for us. 2026, Futurepreneur celebrates 30 years in Canada supporting young entrepreneurs. And we provide small startup loans. So primarily funding plus mentorship plus a lot of free business resources. And I know Carol likes to say all of our business resources are available for anybody outside of our age range, but we like to focus on startups for youth because there's a huge gap out there for young business owners that are starting up. And I love this session. That's why I always attend. And I want to stress what Carol said at the beginning. I love the virtualness of it, Carol, because I'm in, like you said, St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador here, where it's not windy at the moment, which is rare. But even though Jamie can attest in paradise there, we've had some wicked winds. I do get to the West Coast because my district is Newfoundland and Labrador. I do get to the West Coast at least a couple of times a year, but this allows me to keep in contact with what's going on while I'm still here on the East Coast. So thanks so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. So, Amanda, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. And Amanda and I actually just met last week. And through a serendipitous conversation, I said, "Well, hey, I got a coffee break." And first, I was inviting her to attend as an entrepreneur. And then the more we spoke, I said, "Why don't you come on and share what you do?" So this has happened fairly quickly. But for those that are new that are joined, I'll just give you a little brief overview about myself as well. So I'm sometimes I call myself a professional networker more than an entrepreneur because this is the kind of thing that I love to do. But I'm a solopreneur based out of Pasadena on the West Coast. And I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I was conceived in Newfoundland, born in Ontario. 17 years ago, in 10 days, we moved from Ontario here without a job and just decided we wanted to come back home. And I ended up with the provincial government. And then in 2017, my position was eliminated. So I was with the Center for Learning and Development. I always say I was one of those lucky public servants that I never dealt with the public. My Karen, folks like Karen and other government employees were my clients. But I helped them. We used to have an expression that we served the people that serve the people. So my job was to skill up the people in government to help them do their job effectively. And then in 2017, through a cost cutting measure, my position was eliminated. So I thought, what else do you do in rural Newfoundland and Labrador to replace income? Why don't I start a business? So that's what I've done. And on February 18th, I'll be celebrating 8 years in my business. So I can't believe that that's actually gone by that fast. So that's and you can follow me on all the socials and things, but essentially I do consulting work with primarily not-for-profits doing strategic planning. I do public engagement. I'm a keynote speaker. I do business plan writing for some clients, but as Jamie and I were chatting earlier, I say I just call it making it pretty. You got to give me all the details, but I'll format it so folks like Scott look at it and Arlene look at it and say, yeah, we should invest in this person. So it's about telling the story. So it's a little bit about myself. So Amanda, hopefully you've got a sense of who we've got on the call with us. So if you want to do an intro for yourself and then take it away to our topic at hand. And in the meantime, folks, if you want to put any contact information in chat, feel free to do so that other folks can find you if you wish to do so. Amanda, I'll turn it to you.
Thank you so much, Carol, and thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited, and I was taking notes on what everyone does. I feel like there's already a lot of synergy in the room, so I think it's going to be a great chat. So I'm joining from Halifax, Nova Scotia, the unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq, and iPlume was founded in 2017 after, I had my babies and I decided to make a really big career change and leap. So we started, as a remote business before remote was the thing to do. So it was a smooth transition when COVID did happen. So I'm the founder and CEO of iPlume Writing. We're a national nonprofit and business writing company. We write grants and RFPs. Okay, let me just restart here. Sorry, I'm a little bit, I just want to give you a clear understanding of what I do. So we started as a writing company, but everyone came to us for grants. And since I came from nonprofit in the grant writing world, I've I was the person to come to, and I was quite successful helping nonprofits primarily across Canada secure millions of dollars in funding. And then we started to take on more business clients. So now we really are known for our grant writing and funding strategy, and it's just securing funding for nonprofits and businesses, specifically diverse-owned businesses. And since just 2021, we've secured over $40 million in funding for our clients. So it was a natural transition for us to move from writing and doing everything for everyone to teaching them how to do it themselves and building that capacity so that it's sustainable and affordable. Not everyone can afford to hire a grant writer for a whole year. So I thought, well, why don't I put everything I know into a training program? So that's kind of where I am right now. We launched a training program for nonprofits and a training program for businesses on how to access, source, write, submit, gather documents, and everything for grants and funding opportunities. So I wanted to just have a casual conversation today to explain whether or not a funding opportunity is really worth your time or effort. But before I jump into that, I know that I did get a good overview of what you do, but I'm curious if anyone has experience in writing grants, either in their, past job or currently as a business owner. I just want to get a sense of what your experience is there. And I thought maybe we can have a bit of a conversation so I can really tailor the rest of the time to what, works for you. And then Carol, maybe I can share my screen and go through just a couple slides to keep us guided.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can kick off with two hats. So a lot of my clients apply for funding to hire me. So I'm usually saying directing them to different programs, but I don't write their grants for them. They do that. But I am also chairperson of a not-for-profit, so I've written funding applications for the not-for-profit that I'm the founder of and the chair. Jamie, if you want to jump in, because I know we were having this conversation when you came on.
Yeah, I've been doing that for 20 years, on and off in different capacities and different groups I've worked with. My agricultural clients, I usually take a phone call, take the idea, I'll write the grant, submit it to the program because I know what the program's looking for, and then give them the business plan at the end of the day after a couple of conversations to kind of pull out what it is they want to do, and where that is. But trying to stay on top of the latest grants and the nuances of the latest grants and the buzzwords of the latest grants. Like in my world now, where I deal in trails, everything is fire smart. You say fire smart on it now, and you got a better chance of getting funding than if you don't. And that's kind of stuff I'm just trying to figure out where to turn, because it seems to be the criteria. The programs are the same, but the buzzwords are constantly changing.
Excellent, thank you.
I can speak up too. I've spent the beginning of my career was in nonprofits, a couple different ones where I did the grant writing, but then in the last 8 or 9 years, I was on the government side of approving those grants. So the buzzwords are the big ones and the policies. So the people that are approving these, sometimes people will forget to go back and look at the change of words every year. They think that the funding terminology doesn't change, and it does. Every year it changes a little bit, and those are the key words that they're looking for in those approvals. And a lot of times people just submit the same thing over and over and over, and they're not understanding why they didn't get approved. So I'll go back, gone back and said, you have to read the terminology. And usually by the time it gets to the approval stage or where it's getting approved, the deadlines are closed. So they can't go back and change it. So they have to wait another year before they can submit those, and they get frustrated with that. When I said to them, reach out before you submit it and say, this is what we're looking at. Is there anything I do those funding approvals? It's okay to reach out and try to have a conversation with them beforehand to make sure you're getting those key buzzwords or what the changes or what government is looking at this year.
That's a good point. Excellent. Anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Kathy?
I've done a lot of proposal writing for both grant money and to get business. My background before I got to organizational change management was actually working at a large nonprofit social service agency in Vancouver, BC. And it was really hard to get them to understand that there's no point sending in this application for funding because we do not meet the mandatory requirements. And that's still a big thing. And then the mistaken thing is that we'll apply for it. We'll put something in. This used to happen. The company I worked at in BC, the ID company, we'll put it in and we'll negotiate everything later. And I'm going, you can't do that. There's contract A and contract B. And they have no idea after all these years of business. You respond to the proposal, tell them what's going to cost. If it's going to be something different, you put it in the appendices, and then you have a point of negotiation because you've offered an alternative that's part of the original proposal. And it's those little things, because grant requirements do trip up people every single year. My boss used to say, well, just do the same thing. I said, well, you can't. It's changed. So I get, that's a really hard thing for people to learn, is that you have to read what they're asking for or what you have to provide. Make sure you meet those mandatory requirements. Make sure you give them a really good, clear picture of what you're doing. You can't go and do things later. You have to do it at the time you put in that response. So learning how to write clearly, I did a lot of technical writing as well. Write clearly and let people know what we were responding to, what we were proposing we would do to that would fill the need, and then go from there. But it's that learning to write clearly, concisely, and draw the picture at the same time.
Absolutely. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. Sonia, do you want to pop in? Because I know you need to drop off.
Sure. Yeah, I do need to head away. It's been great to be here and to see how this goes. I'd love to come back again. For grant writing, I've always had teams around me that were responsible for that, but I was reviewing. But I do an awful lot of RFP responses, and we're about to step into that season. In my world, it has a season, which involves a lot of coffee and closed doors, right? But yeah, there's like Kathy was saying, I really get that, the clarity, the necessity to be very, very clear, succinct, and direct.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, safe travels back to the Rock when you're heading out later this week.
Thank
And I'm
you.
so glad you're able to jump in for a little bit. Karen, I wanted to touch on something about you were talking about the approvals, and I remember that I had one of your colleagues um, do a not-for-profit session for me one time. And I know writing answers to applications, sometimes it seems like you're repeating yourself 19 times, and you're like, how stupid are you? You just asked me this. How come I got to say this again? And what he pointed out is that parts of it sometimes are going to different people. So, you think you're just repeating yourself 10 times, but they're actually breaking that up and going to different people. So I thought that was a real big eye opener to realize that I need to make sure this is clearly answered in these blocks and not just say see before, because it might be different eyes looking at each of those sections. So when you were talking about the approvals, that reminded me of that piece. And Jamie's nodding, so I think he's had that experience as well.
Yeah.
100%, Carol, and also it has to be A, B, C, D. It can't be A, C, D. There's just a specific order, and sometimes people say, "But it's all there." But yeah, you've said in on the third page, but should have been on the first page.
Yeah,
And that's I find that it's kind of frustrating because you can kind of put it there, but just not in the preferred order that people want to read it in.
that,
So
One of the biggest takeaways that I've given people is that a lot of times when they're applying for these grants, they make it about the organization's need, and not about the flyer, the flyer safety of the trails type of thing. It's not about the organization. It's about whatever that key terms are in government, or especially with government, whatever they're trying to mandate, in in their platforms, of whether it's food security. It's not about the food bank needing bigger shelves to hold more. It's about serving more families more food. It's how you say those type of words versus bringing it back to the organization. Well, we need this in order to operate to serve these people. Well, no, if we provide this, this is how many people we're going to serve. It's just sometimes it's those terminologies, those keywords that can really trip you up in your funding.
excellent. That's a good point. All right, Amanda, hopefully that sparked a little bit there for you.
Yeah, definitely. I love that we have such seasoned grant writing professionals in the room, because Karen, your insight on the other side of the the coin will really help as well. So honestly, if you have any of your own professional insight, just jump in and we can just keep the conversation going. But in the meantime, I can share my screen and we can just kind of run through what to look out for when you're trying to, a little bit about what Karen was saying, about not really knowing if your organization or company is the right fit for a certain grant. And it's not about so much your company's needs or your organization's needs, but it's about really that alignment with what the funder wants to fund. Uh, so so yeah, I can jump right in. I don't see that I can share my screen though.
You don't have the share button up at the top next to your
Well,
microphone?
it's only meeting organizers and presenters.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll promote you to a presenter. Hang on. All right, see if that works for you now.
Perfect. Thank you. So can everyone see this okay?
Yep.
Okay. Let me, I'm just wondering if I'm having a bit of a, when I make this screen larger, I'm not seeing the proper view.
Okay. You can leave it in the slides, the one that you
Okay.
had. Yeah, that's
Sorry
fine.
about that.
That's fine.
Great. So basically, is this grant worth your time? So what are the key items we need to look at to see if it's even worth our time or effort to put into writing a grant? Because anyone who's written a grant or an RFP or any sort of funding application knows how arduous it is and time consuming. So we really want to protect our time and sanity and effort, and only to ensure that we're only applying for the best fit opportunities. So we had a little bit of a conversation about our experience with funding. So the reason why we're having this conversation is because as entrepreneurs and business owners, time is everything. There's never enough time. Every single hour you put into the day needs to be valuable time. So you need to be sure that you're pursuing the right opportunities and being intentional about how you move forward with your business. Also, as I mentioned, because opportunities do take so much time and effort, it can be highly defeating if you receive a rejection letter. You probably will receive something months later or weeks later. And then you remember, oh, yeah, I put in like that entire week, I shut out my business and my family so I could submit this. And now I just got a thanks, but no thanks letter. So it can feel really defeating, the more rejections you receive. So that's another reason why we really want to ensure that we're choosing the best opportunities that really do have a high chance of success. Because as you know, the competition is so stiff out there. All funding programs are oversubscribed already. So the reviewers are going to do a quick scan. If you don't have one of the, mandatory requirements, it's out. So all that time, effort, writing, pouring your heart out onto the paper isn't even being looked at because you couldn't pass the mandatory requirements. So on that note, as Karen was saying, funding comes down to three things: alignment. Does your business directly support what the funder is trying to achieve? So you need to really be aligned with what they're proposing, and what they're willing to fund, because there are a lot of expenses that aren't eligible. So funders are looking at, does this align with our mandate? Can this applicant deliver the proposed project on time and within budget? And, is it ready to go now? And then finally, they assess risk. So looking at your past successes. So we've created this, we've executed this program 5 years in a row. It has grown exponentially. Here's the evidence to support that. Financially, we're in good standing. So those are, funders really want to see that you have that successful history, in project funding and in programming. So yeah, they're really looking for low risk companies. Sometimes, or a lot of times, for businesses, funders will require matching funds. So, for example, Can Export, they fund up to 50% of your project, so up to $50,000. So if you have a project that's $100,000, potentially you can get up to $50,000 from Can Export, but you need to really prove that you have the other funds to support that. Otherwise, it's a little bit risky for the funder. And as a sidebar, Can Export has also been completely oversubscribed the last couple of years. So it's definitely more challenging to receive positive response from them. So then what does a strong fit feel like? And that is your business is in direct alignment with the program goals. So for example, I mentioned Can Export. They have a pretty hefty eligibility criteria. And as long as you are meeting their goals and with your proposed activities, then it's going to be more attractive to them. If you're expanding upon proven methods and deliverables that can be measured and used as direct evidence, like I just mentioned, that's going to especially for an export application. You're saying, look, I've executed this in Canada or locally, and I'm ready to expand further. And as long as you can show that growth pattern, it's going to be more attractive to the funder. And then also, is the funding amount even worth your time and effort? A lot of organizations and businesses I work with will say, don't even send me anything less than $100,000 or $25,000 or whatever. So you really there are some $5,000 grants out there that the application is ridiculously involved and long. So, I really have to assess that with my clients to see, is this really worth, or do you want to go through all of this effort just for the potential for $5,000? And we've applied for $5,000 before and they've received like $1,700. And as you know, there's only so much you can do with $1,700. So you really want to make sure that you're putting your valuable time and effort into opportunities that will pay off. And of course, as long as you can clearly explain why your program or project or effort advance the funder's mission, then that's going to show that clear alignment, and they're going to want to look closer at your business. So, and just a sidebar here, when there's a strong fit, when you really feel that strong fit and check off those key items, then writing is going to be very easy. When there is not a strong fit, you're going to find that you're, BSing a lot of the times, like you did with a high school essay or something. So you really want to make sure that it's not about the money, it's about funding your growth, and not about collecting, small funding opportunities. You really want to just you want to make sure that you're always moving in that growth trajectory. So to simplify this, as part of the iPlume Funding Essentials, the business focus course that I mentioned, I'm going to share one of these tools with you. I can probably just upload it in the comments afterwards. But this is our funding fit checklist. So, and I'm going to walk through this with you, but this tool exists so you can make a more informed decision before you invest weeks and hours of effort and writing time. And to even you need to find out first, does this opportunity even deserve my time? So you can use this to determine if a funding opportunity is right for your business at this time, or maybe it's better for your business a year from now. And so basically, it's just helping you be more intentional about the programs and opportunities that you're pursuing. And then once you get more familiar with this, you become more confident, and you're starting to easily spot opportunities that do align with your business and quickly, you know, remove the ones that aren't aligned. So the more times you use this, it can be very valuable, in your future decisions as well. So let's look at the actual checklist right here. Oh, this was hyperlinked. Okay, can you see?
Can you possibly make it a bit bigger?
Yeah, what I'm gonna do.
There, just sort of, you've got the 100% just below your title there, Amanda. You might be
Yeah.
able to make that a bit bigger. There. I
Okay.
just know my aging eyes, it's a little hard to see.
No, I know. Mine. Okay, so this is one of the tools that we use in our iPlume Funding Essentials. So what we have, I'm just going to go down here. There's quite a big. I'm going to unfreeze this because it's hard to see. Sorry, guys. Well, let's just, if you want to just have a quick conversation, I'm going to figure this out for a second.
That's okay. You can just name it off, because if you're going to send it to us later, then
Yeah.
folks can look at it at that time too.
Okay. I just don't know why it doesn't say unfreeze, which is kind of annoying. But basically, I will keep it large. It's just not you can't see the whole thing.
That's
But
okay.
basically, we have here 10 questions. So, or 10 points you want to score. So if you have a score 0, 1, 2, 0 means you don't meet that requirement or criteria. 1 is like maybe a little bit, and 2 is absolutely, this is fully met. So you would put in 0, 1, or 2 under each of these choices. So we meet all eligibility requirements. Our project is clearly aligned with the funder's objectives. The amount fits our range and what we need for that project scope. The timeline aligns with what we're able to do, when we're able to do it, and within the funder's requirements. And all of your activities and budgets are within the eligible activities and funding amounts. And just to confirm that you can meet that cost sharing amount if it's 50,000 or an in-kind contribution. You can manage reporting, as you know, or as you may know, some funders require pretty hefty and regular reporting. Is this something that you do have the capacity to do if you receive this opportunity? Typically, those are the larger multi-year, multi-million projects. But, as Karen, is it Karen? You're with the government or you receive, you review applications, is that correct?
And approved, and have approved them.
Yeah. So, I guess my point there was that, you're able to ensure that you can meet those requirements, because as Karen knows on the other end of things, that there are times that if those immediate requirements aren't met, then the rest of the application is moot. And then just to ensure that you do have the internal capacity to execute the project, you can provide, evidence to help show your market potential, and that this opportunity advances your overall strategic plan and growth. So you would put in these scores, and then on the bottom, it will automatically calculate, it'll automatically calculate whether it's a go or a no-go. Now, it's not about permission or say, well, I used this checklist and it said I should apply and I applied and I didn't get the funding. It's more about just being more intentional about doing that checking off those items that really make everything clear whether or not it's worth your time or effort. So
I like it.
Yeah, you like the checklist?
I do, because
yeah,
I think so
it can be
often
quite helpful.
we're running around, we're trying to find out what's there. To Jamie's point earlier, like people hire Jamie and I to do some of this stuff for them because they just don't have the capacity to sit down and take the time. But is that even the right thing that they should be doing? And maybe those are some of the conversations that we should have with them before they go and spend a bunch of money on us to do the time for them that maybe isn't even a fit for them. I don't know what your thoughts are, Jamie, but that just kind of occurred to me.
How often do we hear it, Carol, too? Like, well, so and so got money and they're doing X, so I'm doing sort of X, so I'm going to go to that program too, without really giving much thought to what, or even knowing what their buddy down the road or actually submitted or put on paper. Like I hear that a lot, right? But they're getting this, and this from this program. I want that too. It's like, yeah, you're right. This is a nice tool to be able to very quickly say, here's why you don't fit, or here's why you do fit.
Yeah. I have to admit, for me, it's an eye opener or a paradigm shift to think about the funder's goals. And then this is both in my business and my not for profit. I'm especially thinking for the not for profit because that's mostly where I write. I have a proposals committee, and they're always looking for proposals and things. But we're writing it because we have an idea that we want to do, but I'm not sure that we've been very articulate in aligning it with what the funder wants to do.
It's a reverse search, right? Like it's a flip of what of where the focus traditionally is.
Yeah. Like we want to,
and it's easier to write.
offer this program, and so give us the money versus we're offering this program because it will support your goal as an organization to enhance community. Yeah, it's
a different way of writing it too, because the verbiage is going to change because now you're in aligning with the program versus trying to program align with the proposal.
Yeah, I see Karen nodding, so I'm sure
I'm
you got
nodding
that.
because I'm sure you've seen some organizations and they're constantly getting all these funding for different things, like things that like that's not really their work, but they're getting the funding. It's because they're aligning their missions, their goals with the funders versus we are this one organization and we mentor youth, for example, but we can also offer breakfast program. I don't know, I'm just using like different
Yeah.
things. Like, so it's not just about your core, it's never about the core organization because one, especially for provincial funding, and I would say it's the same for federal government funding, is they don't fund on a core basis, on core funding for like an executive director on a yearly basis. That's not what provincial government wants to fund. And
Right.
they do a little bit here and there, but that's not what they want to fund. It's those key topics that are getting them the votes. Like, oh, this was addressed in our platform.
Like climate change adaptation is huge for my funding space in the trail world now, and everything is under that lens. How are we going to make it adaptable to climate change? Because we know the next big storm is coming. So everything is sort of turning over as opposed to building a trail now. It has to be now you got to look at it. How is it going to resist climate change and severity of weather? So now you're flipping your proposals around to say water management now rather than ditching, because now it fits the climate agenda. Like it's a different, but you're right. There are a couple of programs out there that I need to read a bit better and flip them around.
Well,
That's
a few
awesome.
years ago, everything was tourism. So those trails, a lot of those trails terminology was around getting the tourism and increasing tour. That's not really where it's at now. Yes, it's a part of it, but it's not the key message you want to get across.
Yeah. Yeah, I find,
We get
Karen, for us, as
sustainability.
you know, the not-for-profit that I lead is heritage, in the heritage space. And it's not about preserving knowledge, it's about intergenerational activities, it's about knowledge transfer, it's about engagement, and the social determinants more about than we're documenting all of these artifacts that have been donated, right? So I see where this my mind's spinning now on my not-for-profit. So this is good. This is good.
Well, and I do want to point out that if you look on this checklist, if everything is scored as 2, except either number 1 or number 5, it'll be a no-go. So number 1, just to reiterate, our business meets or nonprofit meets all eligibility requirements. That's the biggest one. If you can score 2 on everything else, but you don't meet, you're a nonprofit and not a charity, forget it.
Yeah.
And then number 5 is all planned activities and budget items are eligible under the program. Yeah, as you were just saying, there's no, core funding for an executive director's salary. But if you are applying for funding that covers the executive director's salary, again, they're not even going to look at the rest. And Karen, maybe you can provide us a little bit of insight into how that looks in the background, because, I'm curious to know, do they check out the budget first, or what are the quick no-goes that go to the bottom of the pile?
It really depends on the funding program. So there's lots of different programs, some of our federal budgets, some of them are provincial budgets. It really depends. And it's kind of there are some certain criteria for some programs. Like if you're incorporated, you have to be in good standing. If you're not in good standing, you have to be in good standing before it can be approved. Not that it won't be approved, you just have to get in good standing, show it, and then that can be another check mark type thing. So it really is looked at as a whole. And although you may have some activities that are not in line with what what the funding is for, sometimes, especially for provincial government, and I guess maybe federal, because some of the money comes from federal, is that there can be exceptions. If you provide we're looking for an exception in this activity. We realize that, we're going to do A, B, C, and D, but we also want to do F. It doesn't quite fit, but this is how we think it could fit your overall, and kind of link it a little bit more, because there are exceptions, and especially with provincial funding, it's all about how you present it, and then it's, as an approver, uh, it's my responsibility to make a case for it. So if there's a good solid there with a little bit of, it all links together. I mean, it can't be completely opposite of what the funding is there, but with a little bit outside of it, sometimes there can be exceptions made. And if you do put an activity in there that's not qualified, then they would ask you to remove it and look at all the ones that do. So it's not an automatic write-off. One of the biggest things I want to mention is that, this is all about and applying for the funding. And if you've applied for the funding in the past, it's really important that every time you get the funding that you close it out properly, because they do go back and look at the previous year of what was funded. So that whole accounting thing, can you provide receipts, and or were they within what was approved? Did you finish the activities on time, or did you meet the goals of that funding? And if you didn't, what was the reason why? And making sure those reports are filled out correctly. It's appalling to see sometimes what comes in as a as financial and as a clued up report, and then they expect to get funding again next year, and it's like, well, you never did clue this one up. You didn't meet your goals, and you're looking to be funded for the same thing for the last 10 years, but you're still working on that same trail, for example. So, it's really important that when you're speaking to the businesses to say, yeah, okay, so now, yes, you got your funding. Make sure that when it closes out, you close it out properly and close it on time, because that will get looked at for future projects.
That's a great point. I have a client that struggles with the end of project reporting, and that's why I mentioned reporting. Like, do you even have the capacity, that this, will be required? Can you fulfill this? Because funders will want to refund uh, good recipients. So if you're a good fundee and you do all your reports and your project meets all the goals, and you do all the reporting on time and close out the report and the project positively and well, then the next year, then you can probably say, why didn't I get this funding if you didn't get it the second year? But funders, they want to continuously fund good recipients, who can meet all of their goals and expectations. Yeah. So I guess on that note, if you are looking for sort of a more in-depth look at how you can prepare, write, source, submit, use AI ethically and responsibly to prepare your applications. This is just it's a step-by-step asynchronous course, who want to understand, for people who want to understand how or where to start. And for many of you, you're already experts or very, very informed in this area, but perhaps you have clients or colleagues or nonprofits, because we also have a nonprofit focused training that could use more support. This is just an additional resource if needed. And then that's pretty much it. We can have an open conversation, and I can answer any questions. Here's my LinkedIn QR code, my website and email if you want to reach out. But I would love to just continue the conversation. We're here for another 30 minutes, Carol. Is that right?
Yep. Yep. That's excellent, Amanda. Thank you. I'm curious for Scott and Arlene, who provide funding to startups and new businesses. Scott, maybe I can start with you. Anything here that you would add, or anything jump out that you're like, hey, yeah, that's what people need to know?
fix my microphone. Yeah, nothing really to add. Only because it's just a little bit different than us. It might not be for Arlene because again, it's not a grant for us where it's the
Right.
business plan. So again, we do shift those a little bit different. You know, where again, some people, you know, can lump them in the same category, but with us, it's completely different because we're looking at assessing feasibility and viability. But I guess the big thing that we look at, and I know Jamie hinted on it beforehand, and it's kind of been the theme, is that for us, no matter who I'm dealing with, Carol, whether or not they're applying for me or going through Arlene, the most important thing that we say is that, like, know your reader. Because if somebody is applying for me through Futurepreneur, well, then we have our own business plan template that we would prefer people to go through. But again, people are applying for hundreds of thousands of dollars in either grants or loans and stuff. And there could be 6 different readers and 6 different audiences and 6 different requirements. And we only need 2 years worth of cash flow. And some people say, well, we need a beginning balance sheet. And so it's just, like I said, that's where we've kind of stepped in, and we always try to educate our young entrepreneurs and say, okay, well, if you do this for us, this will increase your chances on our funding. Can't comment on Arlene or somebody at CIBC, but again, it's just that knowing that, you know, especially, and again, I seen what Jamie referenced, you know, when in my nonprofit experience, knowing who the readers are for the grant proposals, what they're looking for, the buzzwords, because we like to see buzzwords, you know, too, and stuff like that, like I said, you know. So yeah, it's just really just trying to figure out what is it that you need to see that would increase these chances are the most important thing for us.
Excellent. Thank you. Arlene?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. And ours is a little different as well. We don't actually do grants per se. We do non-repayable contributions, and the non-repayable contributions go towards equity for the business owner. So it has to be a viable business, and they have to meet certain criteria. For the business service program that we run, which is new to us, we can actually fund consultants to help the Indigenous entrepreneurs. So that has, you know, policies and procedures that it has to be met. But it's services that can empower the Indigenous entrepreneur. So we can fund that. And again, there's scopes of work that has to be done, but at the end of the day, it has to empower the Indigenous entrepreneur and has to make them better business people. So you're not specifically applying for a grant, you're applying for services or help with a loan. So ours is a little bit different as well.
But I think the same thing would apply, Arlene, right? Know your audience, know your requirements of your program.
Absolutely.
You know, and I've been beneficiary of that. Some of your members have hired me through your programming. So, you know, for me, it's always about, and Jamie would be the same. It's kind of us having that awareness of what our clients can go get, because I can't apply for it on their behalf. They have to put the effort in, but yeah, I find with a lot of business owners, they're really good at their craft. They're not good at the business side. They don't know how to be business people. They know how to do their craft. They know how to build something, or they know how to deliver something, but it's all this other stuff that gets a bit bogged down. So I'm really appreciative of the fact that folks like yourself offer funding, and CBDC does the same thing with their consultant advisory services to allow people to tap into that expertise. Kevin, you gave the thumbs up. Do you want to jump in on this part of it? Because I think you run into this with some of your clients as well.
Well, years ago, it's been a little while now, I was working with a COA. So 7 years of business plan assistance, helping them build their business plans. When you're in the thick of it, you're in the know as well. So you're aware of the latest grants to apply to. One of the ones in particular that's still in existence right now used to be called the self-employment benefit. I believe now it's called self-employment assistance or incentive. I think it's incentive or assistance. Can't remember. They changed it. It's the same program that it always was. It lets you extend your EI for a year and also operate your business. So with that, for a brand new person starting off, it allows them to put their best effort into the business, but not have to worry about paying their regular bills throughout the day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of good. As well, COA had a lot of more along the lines of loans, more so than grants. Now, there are grants out there, and as we were talking, I decided to check with AI, see what the latest grants were available. I cross-checked it with the type of services that I provide, and just to see, and it came out with a pretty interesting list. I was kind of interested in seeing, well, what can I apply to? What do I qualify for? How much? And then I asked it to prioritize the list. Which ones would I most likely qualify for? What should I include? So I was doing that a little bit in the background because you inspired me to have a little look. Instead of just spending my day-to-day activities doing work, perhaps there's an opportunity to get some grants myself. You never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things in
Interesting.
the AI realm, because I've just completed the micro credential with CBDC, and if anyone hasn't done that program, I highly recommend it. Um, when I'm doing a response to an RFP, which I know is also what Kathy talked about and a few others talked about, I'll take the RFP requirements and I'll take my response and put it in AI and assign them as you are the evaluator of this response. How would you score this proposal? And then it'll come back and say, you were strong here, here, and here. You totally missed this one. It's like, oh, yeah, right. I forgot that part. So, much as Karen, you talked about, talk to us and let us help you with the application. I've been able to use AI to kind of be that sounding board for me. So before I actually submit my proposal to a potential client, I'm getting some eyes on it artificially, but I'm getting those eyes on it to say, yeah, it lines up, or it's really unclear. Do you have this component? And it's been a real help for me to have that scan through. So that's a tip I would share because it's worked a lot for
I
me.
find sometimes too, like knowing the networking of people, like knowing to pick up the phone and call somebody who's in that program to say, here's what we're thinking about, and they might say, not a chance, and don't even waste your effort,
Yeah,
or you can do this, but your focus needs to be left as opposed to right.
yeah,
And then you just saved yourself a whole ton of time and frustration knowing that the people that are in that funding group, now it takes a while to build up the contacts to be able to have that conversation, but I find that saves me a whole lot of time.
yeah,
And just to be able to get us like a not a chance lots of times. Okay, we'll move on to the next. Because I get that. Sometimes I get that, right? Don't even
yeah,
waste the email because the answer is no, hard no, always going to be no for whatever reason.
yeah.
And it just saves yourself the grief.
And I think too
One
that
thing,
helps you
oh,
frame up how to pitch what you're doing. Like sometimes it's not that you don't fit, it's how you described it doesn't fit. But if you could say it in a different way, and it's the same thing, it might actually fit. Sorry, Karen, I think you were going to jump in on
okay.
that.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First, I want to go back to Kevin and his list because as a navigator, we're often getting inquiries now from businesses that are going in that are probably not as AI tech savvy as you are, Kevin. And they're asking those questions and they're saying to us saying, I want to apply for A, B, C, and D. Can you direct me where to go? And we're like, okay, you run a retail business, you're not qualified. So a lot of times, Jamie, you can come to the business navigators now and we will reach out to the respective departments to see if your proposal or your idea or your business is a fit for their program. And we'll either make a connection with the appropriate person or come back and say, it's not a fit. Um, that helps save some time too. But I'd be interested in seeing your list, Kevin, as someone who is AI savvy to see what it came back with, because a lot of times, like I said, what the general Joe Blow who's just getting into AI is submitting us, I'm like, they have fact checked this. Um, this program no longer exists, things like that, because there's still a lot of course, outdated material on the internet. So be interested to see what it spit back at you, to see, especially the provincial funding stuff or federal.
Well, the cool thing is they always say garbage in is garbage out. So if you don't give enough information to the AI, it will not provide you with the best result. Now, I've used it for quite some time. I've been filling it up with information about my skills, the things I've done. It has copies of my resume, it has links to my websites, it has links to the documents I've written. So it knows a lot about my skill set. And so now it's got a good foundation. Now I cross-check that, and knowing the right questions to ask is a very important part of this. So, like, while we were here, I went in. It wasn't enough to say, hey, there are 20 potential funding opportunities. I want to know which ones are the most likely to provide a grant. So it reprioritized that. I asked it what I needed to include into it to be successful. It gave me that information, as well as, well, based on all the things that I do, what are the topics I should include? And it went and gave me that. So, it is, and the one that's the better one. So between all of them, Claude and Grok would probably be my two main ones I would go for. Claude does really good writing. So if you were actually able to read it, you would start to read it and look at it from, geez, this sounds like a real person wrote it. And you also have to do a pre-prompt to make sure write it as a human would, because otherwise it's going to be filled with M dashes, very short sentences, a lot of cliches that really don't need to be in there, and they just waste your time and whatever. But yes, that is my skill set. I've been programming since I was 11. Uh, Built 3 learning management systems before there were learning management systems. So I've been doing this for a very long time. I know a multitude of different programming languages, and I'm learning new as we go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Kevin. I appreciate it.
Amanda, I really liked your point about the closeout and the aftercare of the grant, which is just as important, if not more important, than the upfront care of the grant. And people think, okay, I got the money. Well, who cares now? I'll do that closeout. Now I'll get to it. When your reputation is kind of valuable to try to get that in on time, or at least or early if possible, and then carry on. And sometimes I'll tell clients, you've exceeded that goal, so tell them that, right? Like don't just meet the requirement. Tell them that with that money we've exceeded that requirement, and yay me, because then next year your application just gets your stock moves up. I often tell clients, right? Because now you have a reputation of exceeding the goal that even you thought you were going to get to. I think that's key, because some people just think I was done now. I got the money. Who cares? But
I'd like to add to Jamie's before we move on. I made a mistake. I thought that saving money was a good idea. Damn, was I wrong. So what ended up happening is that I applied for funding, and I got it on behalf of the Indian Band Council in Bay St. George back in the day with Reg Mullet and Mr. Muse. I forget his name off the top of my head. Whoever the Indian Band Council was at the time. And we got the funding, and I thought saving money was a good idea. I got the whole program done. I saved 20,000. You know what they did? Every other applicant got their funding cut by $20,000. So, just to let you know, if you get a grant for 100,000, definitely use the entire 100. There is a reason why in government we used to have, like, let's say we had a bit of a surplus at the end of the year. All of a sudden, okay, what software do you need? What training do you need? We need to eat this little bit of excess up before the next funding comes in. Otherwise, we asked for 50, we got 50. We have 5,000 outstanding. We better burn that 5,000. Otherwise, it's going to be cut from our budget in the new year. There's no reward for saving money. So I just figured I'd throw that in.
Which is exactly why I'm super busy January to March. Because all of my clients say, I've got some money, let's go.
Can you get it done by March 15th? Can you finish it by March 15th?
Exactly, because we need those 2 weeks to do the last reporting to get into government. You got it.
And we don't want you sending any money back, because it's harder to maneuver that money coming back than going out.
They
So
do
make
not
sure
want
you
the money
spend
back.
it.
Do not send
Exactly.
money back to government.
Exactly.
Well, this conversation, Karen and Jamie, what you were alluding to, and somewhat Kevin, it really is about building that relationship with the funder, ensuring you close out properly, ensuring you say, I've exceeded your expectations, as Kevin was saying, spend all the money. You want to be a very easy recipient, very just not high maintenance. And it really does start before you even put pen to paper. It really is about reaching out to that funder. If you do have questions, let them know who you are. Let them know your project. They could probably help tweak it, and which would tweak your idea, which would ultimately lead to funding. Whereas if you didn't reach out to them at all and you just submitted something and it didn't get funding and you didn't know that, oh, if I had only reached out to them. And that's a lot of the cases the funder will respond and say, you know, this is where you fell short. And then it's like, if I had have just clarified that or something. So it really is from beginning to end, building that positive funder relationship because it will pay off.
Absolutely. Kelly, did you want to jump in?
Yep. I had a couple of points that I wanted to make. One, it does depend on the funder and how you get your story across. I've had a situation where my business, I've been working towards it for quite some time, and I went to a funder with my proposal, and they read it and they said, "Oh, there's no appetite for this in this area. This is not a viable business." Fast forward 5 years later, because I knew it was viable. I guess I just didn't explain it well enough or have the right ideas of how it was going to work. Um, the same funder, but a different person in that funding has hired me twice now to pull my events to their business. When 5 years previous, they were like, oh, this is not a viable business, but yet here you are hiring me. So it really depends on who the funder is and how you get your story across for sure. Um, and it is important to make sure that you're getting the right information into your grants or into your proposals for sure.
Yeah,
Well, I
absolutely.
remember 10 years ago, one of my clients wanted to pitch aquaponics, growing cucumbers and type vegetables in tractor trailers. And I was like, no way, sprung greenhouse, forget it, not touching it. 5 years later, now there's guys growing in square concrete buildings in Donovan's, lettuces and tomatoes and cucumbers. So
Yeah.
definitely things change, right? And things kind of evolve and things kind of move around. So it's funny, it's interesting, but I always make phone calls wherever I can to build that relationship. It makes it hard to say no when they know the person's on the other end of the phone at some point too.
Well, exactly. And I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday about sponsorships, which is not quite the same thing, but they're looking to get sponsors to do a particular event. And this person was sharing with the group. I wasn't in the conversation, but the person I was talking to was says, well, you got to call them. You got to talk to them. You can't just send blind emails and expect somebody's just going to give you money. Like, have a relationship and well, then someone's like, well, 5 years ago they were treated me really rudely. Okay, but that was 5 years ago. Like, so there's definitely a lot more to it. So out of respect for time, first off, Amanda, thank you. I know I put you on the spot like 4 days ago, literally, and you jumped in, so I really, really appreciate it. Um, thanks everyone for attending. So if everyone is okay, I think to make this expeditious, what I'll do is send your email to Amanda, and then she can send you the checklist. Does that work for everyone? Okay. I just think it'll be easier because then you can make your connection with Amanda if you have any other questions, as opposed to going through me as a conduit. Um, who's got stuff on the go? Kelly, you've got an event this week in Pasadena. Do you want to promote that?
Right. I do. We're doing music bingo. First time on the island, so we're very excited about that. It's one of my things is to always try to add a new type of event to my repertoire. So yeah, we're gonna go to the local cafe and we're gonna play some bingo. I'm gonna play a whole bunch of music, and you check off your special bingo cards and just a fun time.
Excellent. Cool. Kathy, do you have anything you want to share that's coming up in your world that you want folks to know?
Um, Not today. No, I'm just getting started. So
Okay.
everything's under development right now.
Okay. Well, stay tuned and you're welcome to come anytime and help promote. Scott, I think Rock My Series is always on. Rock My Business Series is always on an ongoing thing.
It is, yeah. It's happening right now. Our very popular virtual 3-part Rock My Business workshop series where we focus on business ideas, business plans, cash flow. We have a session today that I'm going to attend, Carol, this afternoon. It's called My Canadian Startup. It's an interactive workshop tailored for newcomer entrepreneurs in Canada. We got a session next week about financing, from bootstrapping to venture capital, the funding landscape for startups. We got our popular Owners Wanted session for buying and selling businesses. So we got a couple of cool things happening.
Awesome. And Scott's always looking for mentors.
I
So if
am.
anyone is available to mentor, he's wore me down, but actually for me it was the best thing because it was my nail technician. So every 6 weeks I got to mentor her while she was doing my nails. So
It
we had a
worked out
great
well.
we had a great relationship. And I believe Scott in April she finishes her loan payment with you, so she's super
Ah,
excited.
there
Uh,
we go.
so
That's a good
she's
time.
coming to the end of that. Kevin, what's going on in your world? Do you have anything you want folks to know?
Well, I just finished a meeting with Mike Guzny, and he's our minister that will be in charge of AI for the province. And we're working on some potential AI projects. I really can't say what they are right now.
Yeah, fair.
And yeah, and of course, I've been working on cleverassist.ai. I see a lot of potential for that one. I'm competing with products that are spending a lot of money, but now the space is getting very big, very fast. It was interesting. When I
Yeah.
started the project, there was only one competitor, and now I believe we're up to at least 5 to 6, if not more. And pretty much it's the wearable AI. So you can put a little microphone on your lapel. It'll record all your conversations for the day, transcribe them into whatever language, answer all the questions related to what your requirements are. And it's kind of popular right now that there's a pilot project going on in the island for doctors for transcribing their medical notes, saving them a lot of time. So it's a very similar product to that.
Cool. That's excellent. I don't know if there's some conversation I just would never want recorded, but that sounds
No.
interesting.
Yeah, you
delete,
can do
delete,
a
delete, delete.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you could do a transcription without recording too, as well. And all of it's stored locally on your phone, so it's not on a cloud. Nobody else has it. It reduces the ability for your information to be hacked. And yeah, so yeah, that's a lot of people don't like everything being recorded, and they don't like the ability of having it placed on a cloud where anybody can get to it. So
Right.
stored locally is your best bet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about change, as I mentioned earlier, I did the micro credential for AI, and it's a 6 week course, twice a week, I think, 6 or 8 weeks. It was changing within the course. Like that's how fast things are. Like we would do something on day one, and by day four, they would reteach it to us because it had changed. Like it's kind of mind-boggling about how quickly the space is changing. But we equated it. We had a conversation in our last session when the internet started. Nobody's going to use that. And it's like, where are we now, right? So it's here. It's not going anywhere. It's how you can use it. What's right for you. Jamie, the trails. So other than them falling apart because it's raining and melting and
Yeah, other than
snowing,
climate change, yeah, no, it's climate change is just trying to deal with it is a mass. It's going to take a massive amount of money and advanced planning to be able to ensure that what you build this year is going to survive next year and the year after and the year after and the year after.
yeah,
It's the world we're in. 100 millimeters of rain event is normal now. Look at all this wind we've had on the East Coast in the last 2 weeks. 120 kilometers southwesterly wind in January. Like
yeah,
I always tell people, whether you believe in climate change or not, the weather's definitely screwed up. so
yeah.
something's gone sideways.
I remember
Blame
one
it on what you
time
want, but
this was way before Fiona because it's obviously sensitive, but somebody was talking to somebody in Port Basque about this hurricane coming. It might have been Earl or Irene or one of those ones a number of years ago. And he said, "What are you talking about? That's just Tuesday's wind." Like
yeah, yeah. I
hurricane
mean
winds here, common.
the big massive hurricanes that roll through and take out. That's one of those things you can never really put enough infrastructure on the ground to withstand that.
Yeah.
Like out in Portabass, I mean, engineers told us like there was nothing you could have put there that would have still been there, given the amount of devastation it went through. But
Yeah.
you can prepare for the 100 millimeter rain events, which used to be 30 millimeters, are now 100. So now you can definitely prepare for those with bigger culverts, bigger pieces. But yeah, the big events you're still going to have to just kind of carry on with. But now winter time for me is more planning because the trail is more snowmobile use, less anybody else. So I'm scurrying about now writing funding proposals and grants for spring startup. So the timing of this event was perfect for me. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Karen, I appreciate your offer for you to be the conduit to some of these folks rather than us always having to try to find out who those folks are. But is there anything else you would add?
Just one little piece I wanted to touch on that Amanda had spoke about partnerships and in-kind contributions. When you're doing your proposals, make sure you highlight those. That's not a negative to see that you're building on funding and that you're not seeking one person seen as a strength. And a lot of times they don't put any in-kind contributions or partnerships, and that is very negatively looked upon.
Excellent. Good point. A tip that was given me, this is my not-for-profit head too, is and I've gone through to build a profile of all of the board members, what skills they bring, because listing that we have 9 board members doesn't tell you that we've got, I'm a facilitator and I've got a retired teacher and I've got an accountant and, those types of things. So that was a good tip for me that I attach now to applications is this is yes, we're all here as board members, but this is our cumulative skill set that we have. To, without sort of pinpointing that, but having that entrenched into the application. So that was a neat tip that was given to us. Amanda, thank you. Do you have any last words that you would like to say to these fine folks?
I just want to thank you so much. This was my first official kind of, so it was a little rocky. I'm not a morning person. I feel super comfortable now and I could do it no problem, but I really appreciate you being so kind and just enjoying the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on. So that's it. We've come to the end, 1 minute to spare. So abiento, nemolstis. See you next time. So stay tuned. Follow either my Facebook, LinkedIn, or sign up to my newsletter as we plan the next one. If you have suggestions of what you'd like as a topic, if you know of a speaker that you'd like to have, feel free to reach out and let me know. And as always, if there's something that after today you're like, man, what was it she said? It'll be recorded and posted. So watch for that. And you can always go back and check it out. So thank you, everyone. Have yourselves a fantastic day. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.